Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Jari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jai Jagena Jai Jagena Jai Balaji Mai Subhadra Jaya Srinataji Jaya Bhagupal Jaya Srinataji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jai Jai Gurudev 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 Jai Jai Gurudev Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astodhara Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Founder of ISKCON Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Jai Most Merciful Lordship Shri Kunja Bihari Ki Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal Ki Jai Shri Gaurnitai Ki Nitai Go Prem all glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the Lord Spirit. Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Jodayam Udiraya. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, Text 21. Danvinam Agranir Esha Danvinam Agranir Esha Tuyas Arjunayor Dvayo Tulyaskarjunayor-dvayo Utasa Iva Durdarsa Utasa Iva Durdarsa Samudra Iva Dustara Samudra Iva Dustara Davinam Agranir Esha Davnivam Tanvinam Agranir Esha Tulyasarjunayor Dvayo Tulyasarjunayor Dvayo Utasa Iva Durdarsa Utasa Iva Durdarsa Samudra Iva Dustara Samudra Iva Dustara Danvinam Agraniresha Tulyasarjunayor-dvayo Utasa Iva Durdarsa Samudra Iva Dustara Danvinam Agraniresha Tulyasarjunayor-dvayo Utasa Iva Durdarsa Samudra Iva Dustara Danvinam Agraniresha Tulyasarjunayor-dvayo Utasa Iva Durdarsa Samudra Iva Dustara. So that D in the second line, the last word, DV, that V is pronounced dwa. The D, dwa. Yeah, okay. Danvinam of the great bowman. Agrani, the foreman. Esa, this child. Tulya, equally good. Cha, and. Arjunayo, of the Arjunas. Dvayo, of the two. Utasa, fire. Eva, like. Durdasha, irresistible. Samudra, ocean. Eva, like. Dustara, unsurpassable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna. He will be as irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. Please repeat. Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna. He will be as irresistible as fire and unsurpassable as the ocean. Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna. He will be as irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. Purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In history, there are two Arjunas. One is Satriya Arjuna, the king of Ahaya. The other is the grandfather of the child. Both the Arjunas are famous for their bowmanship, and the child, Parikshith, is foretold to be equal to both of them, particularly in fighting. A short description of the Pandava Arjuna is given below. Pandava Arjuna, the great hero of the Bhagavad Gita. He is the Kshatriya son of Maharaj Pandu. Queen Kunti Dev could call for any one of the demigods, and thus she called Indra, and Arjuna was born by him. Arjuna is therefore a plenary part. Arjuna is therefore a plenary part of the heavenly king Indra. He was born in the month of Falgun, February, March, right around now. Very timely reading. Wow. Therefore, he is also called Falguni. When he appeared as the son of Kunti, his future greatness was proclaimed by air messages in all the important personalities from different parts of the universe, such as the demigods, the Gandharvas, the Adityas from the sun globe, the Rudras, the Vasus, the Nagas, the different rishis, sages of importance, and the Apsaras, the society girls of heaven, all attended the ceremony. The Apsaras pleased everyone by their heavenly dances and songs. Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, and the maternal uncle of Arjuna, sent his priest representative Kasyapa to purify Arjuna by all the prescribed samskars of reformatory processes. His samskara of being given a name was performed in the presence of the rishis. Residents of Satashringa, he married 4 wives, Draupadi, Subhadra, Chitrangara, and Ulupi, from whom he got 4 sons of the names Shrutakirti, Abhimanyu, Banavahan, and Iravan, respectively. During his student life, he was entrusted to study under the great professor Dronacharya, along with other Pandavas and the Kurus, but he excelled everyone by his studious intensity, and Dronacharya was especially attracted by his disciplinary affection. Dronacharya accepted him as a first-grade scholar and loved heartily to bestow upon him all the blessings of military science. He was so ardent a student that he used to practice bowmanship even at night. And for all these reasons, Professor Dronacharya was determined to make him the topmost bowman of the world. He passed very brilliantly the examination in piercing the target, and Dronacharya was very pleased. Royal families at Manipur and Tripura are descendants of Arjuna's son, Babru Bahan. Arjuna saved Dronacharya from attack of a crocodile, and the Acharya, being pleased with him, rewarded him with a weapon of the name Brahmashiras. Maharaj Drupad was inimical toward Dronacharya, and thus when he attacked the Acharya, Arjuna got him arrested and brought him before Dronacharya. He besieged a city of the name of Ahitchatra, belonging to Maharaj Drupad, and after taking it over, he gave it to Dronacharya. The confidential treatment of the weapon, Brahmashiras, was explained to Arjuna, and Dronacharya was promised by Arjuna that he would use the weapon, if necessary, when he, Dronacharya, personally became an enemy of Arjuna. By this, the Acharya forecasted the future battle of Kurukshetra, in which Dronacharya was on the opposite side. Maharaj Drupad, although defeated by Arjuna on behalf of his professor Dronacharya, decided to hand over his daughter Draupadi to his young combatant. But he was disappointed when he heard the false news of Arjuna's death in the fire of a shellac house. Intrigued by Duryodhana, he therefore arranged for Draupadi's personal selection of a groom who could pierce the eye of a fish hanging on the ceiling. This trick was especially made because only Arjuna could do it, and he was successful in his desire to hand over his equally worthy daughter to Arjuna. Arjuna's brothers were at that time living incognito under agreement with Duryodhana, and Arjuna and his brothers attended the meeting of Draupadi's selection in the dress of Brahmins. When all the Kshatriya kings assembled saw that a poor Brahmin had been garlanded by Draupadi for her lord, Sri Krishna disclosed his identity to Balaram. He met Ulupi at Haridwar, and he was attracted by a girl belonging to Nagaloka, and thus Iravan was born. Similarly, he met Chitrangada, a daughter of the king Manipur, and thus Babruvahan was born. Lord Sri Krishna made a plan to help Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra, sister of Sri Krishna, because Baladev was inclined to hand her over to Duryodhana. Yudhisthira also agreed with Sri Krishna, and thus Subhadra was taken by force by Arjuna and then married to him. Subhadra's son is Abhimanyu, the father of Parikshith Maharaj, the posthumous child. Arjuna satisfied the fire god by setting fire to the Khandava forest, and thus the fire god gave him one weapon. Indra was angry when the fire was set in the Khandava forest, and thus Indra, assisted by all other demigods, began fighting with Arjuna for his great challenge. They were defeated by Arjuna, and Indradev returned to his heavenly kingdom. Arjuna also promised all protection to one Mayashur, and the latter presented him one valuable conch shell, celebrated as the Devadat. Similarly, he received many other valuable weapons from Indradev when he was satisfied to see his chivalry. When Maharaj Yudhisthira was disappointed in defeating the king of Magad, Jarasandha, it was Arjuna only who gave King Yudhisthira all kinds of assurances, and thus Arjuna, Bhima, and Lord Krishna started for Magadha to kill Jarasandha. When he went out to bring all other kings of the world under the subjection of the Pandavas, as was usual under the coronation of every emperor, he conquered the country named Kalinda and brought in subjugation King Bhagadat. Then he traveled through countries like Antagiri, Ulukapura, and Modapura, and brought under subjugation all the rulers. Sometimes he underwent severe types of penances, and later on, he was rewarded by Indradev. Lord Shiva also wanted to try the strength of Arjuna, and in the form of an aborigine, Lord Shiva met him. There was a great fight between the two, and at last Lord Shiva was satisfied with him and disclosed his identity. Arjuna prayed to the Lord in all humbleness, and the Lord, being pleased with him, presented him the Pashupata weapon. He acquired many other important weapons from different demigods. He received Dandastra from Yamaraj, Pashastra from Varuna, and Antardanastra from Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly kingdom. Indra wanted him to come to the heavenly kingdom, Indraloka planet, beyond the moon planet. In that planet, he was cordially received by the local residents. He was awarded reception in the heavenly parliament of Indradev. Then he met Indradev, who not only presented him with his Vajra weapon, but also taught him the military and musical science as used in the heavenly planet. In one sense, Indra is the real father of Arjuna, and therefore indirectly he wanted to entertain Arjuna with the famous society girl of heaven, Urvasi, a celebrated beauty. The society girls of heaven are lusty, and Urvasi was very eager to contact Arjuna, the strongest human being. She met him in his room and expressed her desires, but Arjuna sustained his unimpeachable character by closing his eyes before Urvasi, addressing her as mother of the Kuru dynasty, and placing her in the category of his mothers, Kunti, Madri, and Sachidev, wife of Indradev. Disappointed, Urvasi cursed Arjuna and left. In the heavenly planet, he also met the great celebrated ascetic Lomas and prayed to him for protection of Maharaj Yudhisthira. When his inimical cousin Duryodhana was under the clutches of the Gandharvas, he wanted to save him and requested the Gandharvas to release Duryodhana, but the Gandharvas refused, and thus he fought with them and got Duryodhana released. When all the Pandavas lived incognito, he presented himself in the court of King Virat as a eunuch and was employed as the musical teacher of Uttara, his future daughter-in-law, and was known in the Virat court as Brihanal. As Brihanal, he fought on behalf of Uttara, the son of King Virat, and thus defeated the Kurus in the fight incognito. His secret weapons were safely kept in the custody of a somi tree, and he ordered Uttara to get them back. His identity and his brother's identity were later undisclosed to Uttara. Dronacharya was informed of Arjuna's presence in the fight of the Kurus and the Viratas. Later on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna killed many great generals like Karna and others. After the battle of Kurukshetra, he punished Ashwatam, who had killed all the 5 sons of Draupadi. Then all the brothers went to Bhishmadev. It is due to Arjuna only that the great philosophical discourses of the Bhagavad Gita were again spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. His wonderful acts on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are vividly described in the Mahabharata. Arjuna was defeated, however, by his son, Babruvahan, at Manipur and fell unconscious when Ulupi saved him. After the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the message was brought by Arjuna to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Again, Arjuna visited Dwarka, and all the widow wives of Lord Krishna lamented before him. He took them all in the presence of Vasudeva and pacified all of them. Later on, when Vasudeva passed away, he performed his funeral ceremony in the absence of Krishna. While Arjuna was taking all the wives of Krishna to Indraprastha, he was attacked on the way. He could not protect the ladies in his custody. At last, advised by Vyasadeva, all the brothers headed for Mahaprasthana. On the way, at the request of his brother, he gave up all important weapons as useless, and he dropped them all in the water. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshi Sumiratamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. These are details from the Mahabharata. I read the Mahabharata back in 92. I read it to my wife. This is advised in the scriptures. But as we see here, the details are being given of some of the difficulties that the Pandavas were forced to live incognito by a fixed dice game that Uncle Sakuni had created dice out of the bones of his father. So whatever he told the dice to come up as, that's the number that would come up. But the Pandavas were being cheated and they didn't know it. And by the cheating, they lost their whole kingdom, everything, even their wives, as though their wives were merchandise that could be gambled off. And this brought out the lusty nature of Duryodhana. He wanted to see Draupadi disrobed, but had Krishna been there, he said himself, he would have cut Duryodhana's head off right then. But, see, this is also evidence that Duryodhana's character was so far below the character of Lord Krishna and the purity, the strength and power of the purity of his force, that Krishna didn't even need to take up weapons. Karma is of such nature, and in Krishna's, then what to speak in Krishna's presence. See, we don't have karmic reactions happening as fast as they did in previous yugas. So in previous yugas, the karma was so strong that even if you thought to do an evil act, it would react upon you. And Lord Chaitanya explains that in this age, because the influences are so strong, the modes of ignorance now dominating even rulers and leaders of nations, that he's not holding human beings accountable for the act if they only think the thought and restrain themselves from performing the act. But the mercy of God is such that if you even think to do good in your mind, then Krishna will give you the benefit of doing that. So how merciful is that he won't hold you for thinking evil, as long as you restrain yourself from engaging in that act. But this is evidence of what you can say, the forces of energy that govern all the human beings that are being controlled as well by their previous karmic activities. And that in this age, we're not as able to achieve as high accomplishments as they were able to in previous ages. And sinful activity has brought us to this stage of development. As I've been bringing out in previous classes, how that this development, or this stage of development, we have come to in a universal perspective, although we see ourselves as the highest form of life on the planet, in the universal perspective, we're actually pretty low on the scale, just above animals, maybe one step above animals, and one step below ghosts. But taking that into consideration, when we are looking at those most advanced forms of life, human beings, that are able to create from their self-same body, I was realizing a few days ago that giving people the understanding about this might come with it the belief that, oh, well, we shouldn't have intercourse anymore. We shouldn't join together as married couples and have children in that way anymore. But no, that's not the function of this knowledge. But to realize that we are, see, built into the process, spiritual progress of Krishna consciousness, the ashrams that are progressive, so you take Grihastha ashram, after being brought up in brahmacharya from Goloka, from Gurukula. So children begin in the process at 5 years old, learning the process of spiritual realization, and then once they reach an age of accountability, and actually we've said beyond accountability, they reach a stage of maturity to where around the age of 20 or so, and in Vedic culture it's even younger than that, as we see Subhadra's son, trying to remember his name, he had a child and he was on the battlefield at the age of 16 years old. And already Maharaj Parikshith, his son was going to be born. So this means they were marrying at very young ages. So, but then after one completes the responsibilities he would have, having married life and bringing children into the world, then he takes vanapras, leaves family life to meditate upon Krishna and the nature of Krishna's mind, the nature of Krishna's activities, the nature of Krishna's society of people, and then begins to take on the customs or the lifestyle of one who would be in Krishna Loka, who would be in Vrindavan, giving everyone the association that is needed by the spiritual souls who are going to Goloka Vrindavan. So we get there by knowing the process and how to purify our lives, but to see the automatic involvement with ourselves in making progress past these kinds of bodies is incorporated into the vanapras and the sannyas order, that then you renounce everything in this world, because everything in this world is being done against the ways of God, and we were brought into this world because we ourselves also were choosing to depart from where we came from. But that happened a long, long time ago. But now we are being given, that choice led us to eventually become animals. But now reaching the point of human being, now we are being given the knowledge that supersedes all the knowledge of that being given by the people, the most elevated educators in this planet, on this planet, to be able to understand. And here we were seeing Arjuna was brought to Indraloka. Did you remember? I was reading about that. Arjuna visited Indraloka. Of course, Indra was his father. But see, we have such evidence that this was common practice. Demigods were coming here. All these demigods gave Arjuna all these weapons and all these mantras. And so we are seeing that was common amongst them. And the whole civilizations of the world were being given means of communicating with demigods and were receiving, knowledge. So what now presently is being taught in the world about the history, they don't have any of this knowledge whatsoever. And these interactions now that they're seeing with planetary travel of other civilizations, they don't know how to cope with it. And even acknowledging that their power is far superior to ours, they treat them as if they had the ability to control them, which they don't. And they have had this space travel knowledge, as we see. 5,000 years ago, they were visiting Krishna and have knowledge. My belief is that the way to approach these foreign entities is through the Sanskrit language and through respect and honor because that is a universal language. You know, even recognized by animals. I lived in a horse ranch one time in which there was also dogs and everything else. Animals have a sensitivity to people's thoughts. If you enter into a little corral where there's a horse and you have evil thoughts towards him, he senses that. You get kicked in the head. So watch out. Because they can sense that, just like dogs also. They can sense. And this is the soul's ability manifesting in particular life forms. So the ability to fly is another one of those opulences of the soul which we have lost the ability of. But it doesn't mean it can't be restored. From what I understand of Narad Muni, see, Arjuna was brought, we don't have understanding whether he was brought there in a spacecraft, if he was brought there in the self-same body, if he just flew there himself. It's not really spoken of in this particular purport. And having read Mahabharata, you know, of course, the condensed version of Mahabharata, I don't recall there being any description of how he got to Indraloka either. But we know with Krishna's abilities, he's in control of all of these bodies we're going through now, and he reveals that by making promises about our engagement in these activities is going to definitely be the cause of the next glorious manifestation we as souls will be able to take part in. It's going to be glorious, Prabhu. It's going to be glorious beyond our imaginations. 11th canto, 12th canto describes how that Krishna comes to the soul who is pure. That means all we've been doing for Krishna, all we've been doing with our lives is that which is directly related to somehow connected to Krishna. And at the end of that life, Krishna says he is coming. He's already come as Super Soul, right? So he has expanded himself in as many forms as there are living entities. So already he's expanded that many times. But he's going to bring us personally back on the back of an expansion of Garuda. I'm saying an expansion of Garuda. The scripture says Garuda, period.
Okay.
So, but see, every universe I'm sure has a Garuda. So there's more than one expansion of Garuda. All these expansions and multiplications of bodies that would be necessary for there to be billions and billions and just countless universes. So all these things that we're reading about that we think of as happening here only, no, it's eternally going on in billions and billions of universes with some slight differences here and there. So
Twin paradox.
when you have a universe that is controlled by a Brahma who has 1,000,000 heads, then you're going to have a universe that is much larger. So that universe, of course, containing a form of Krishna that is likened to Mahavishnu that we have here, but the Korma there would be much larger.
Yes.
And the mountain there would be much larger. And the living entities who take birth inside of those planets would be much larger. So these are the histories that are missing from present day lawmakers, educational systems. See, what may seem foreign to present day lawmakers, because the way the present system of learning law has become is that only certain people select of society choose to make law their profession, right? If you study Shrimadbhagavatam from beginning days of grade school, which it is meant to be read and by children, then this will be so inbred upon them. By the time they graduate from college, the laws of God are so inbred in them. They know right from wrong, absolute. And being guided by Super Soul, because of the purification, they have pure direct guidance from Super Soul to contact any set of situations that they're put into them. They're being guided, you're being guided by Super Soul's knowledge within you to protect you, to give you the insight to see what others can't. And we have example after example after example of the vision Krishna gives to those who are of a pure heart, to be able to see all circumstances in their lives from that view that Super Soul gives them the ability to see. And super sight. And kryptonite be damned. Superman doesn't have anything like the kind of vision that devotees have about the future and about the supreme person of God. Beyond Superman. See, even as a form, Superman, if you ever as a child saw the series, there's no mention ever that I saw, and I'm pretty sure I saw every single one of those. I was a fanatic for Superman when I was a kid. Never once did I see the mention of God. I don't remember ever hearing the mention of God, which suggests that the author was probably atheistic. But nevertheless, every act that he put Superman into was that to prove that right overcomes evil, right? And so in the minds of the children that saw this thing, it was beneficial for the stage of development they had come to implant within their consciousness the difference between right and wrong. And this is automatically embedded in Bhagavatam, so that when, as children, are being given instructions to read and study, automatically incorporated into that study is moral etiquette in how human beings should communicate with one another and act with one another, and to experience higher forms of consciousness in their enactments with each other. It's automatically. Today, with educators putting into the young minds of their students the ideas that they should be thinking about their genitals and whether nature got it wrong. They might have been born male, but maybe they're actually female. This is so insane. It takes the children's minds off of what things should be learned and concentrated upon, and makes them develop a bodily consciousness about themselves that is so inferior, because then they become questioning the validity of their own worth. I'm not right, I'm not made right. This is what the consciousness is being put into young children's mind. I didn't get made right. I'm something other than what my body is telling us. This is crazy insanity. And then we see from interaction with these young people that not only have they lost the importance of what their mind should be focusing upon, but because they have, so when they get up to be the age of 18, 19, 20 years old, when they're supposed to be able to carry on human beings' kind of conversations of discussion and educated consciousness, they can't. They can't. And they have been indoctrinated with so much bias, prejudice about people who are not following into their classification of what human beings are now. They can't even reason with them. They're automatically, they're called white bias, prejudice. What do they call it?
White supremacy?
White supremacist. I went online and I communicate sometimes. I play chess and different things online. I've had an account where before anything was even spoken, any words at all came out of either person's mouth, the one person is saying you're biased, prejudiced, white supremacist, and nothing's even been said yet. So this is obvious evidence that this indoctrination that's being done to children's mind is that, and we have been also guilty of this, when we put people into categories and we say, this group of people does this, when in fact every single one of the people in that category is an individual, unique personality. Their skin may be the same color as some other people, but that doesn't make their consciousness the same. That doesn't make them the same person because they have some likes of bodily forms with other human beings. The colors of our skin doesn't have anything to do with our consciousness. But as children are being indoctrinated to believe that, they are themselves exhibiting a form of racism that far exceeds that even brought out before, because previously racism was based on some anomaly of your own physical body. But now the indoctrination is automatically you're that, irregardless of the way you act. You're automatically that, believed by these young people that are being indoctrinated by people who have those theories. And so the whole society, when we see that those young people get in positions of leadership, and they're being allowed to enter in whether they're qualified or not. It is the belief now in some Congress people who are passing laws that require principals of schools and teachers in schools to function the way they command them to do that. So the books are written the way they want their philosophies to be promoted. And so all this that is being put into young people's minds by academia is not what 50 years ago was being promoted as the norm. And so we are going to see the results of that society that has been created by taking the knowledge of God out of it. And that's what we're seeing. A result of, and all this chaos in the world, and all of human beings dividing themselves into groups and considering that division of themselves to make themselves superior to other groups. This is all a manifestation of the false ego that keeps us as a whole. The same way Congress is not seeing itself as one functioning body because of the nature of their using their position within Congress to fight against each other. They are dividing themselves against themselves. So they're breaking down the functions of the House of Representatives that they're sitting in. And so it's becoming dysfunctional, being used as a weaponry rather than a means of uniting all the thoughts, the good thoughts and ideas of the highest, most elevated people of society to bring together those most matured, formulated conclusions of how society should conduct itself for there to be peace, harmony, long life, good health, well-being. These things that Krishna describes which will automatically be brought about by following his principles. And that's what's so wonderful about Krishna consciousness. These things that are for the welfare of humanity at large are automatically brought out by the practice of the principles of Krishna consciousness. So, we don't eat for ourselves. We eat based on precepts set down at the foundation of the world. So we are engaging in the oldest science there is. That science which every person who takes part in it can prove to themselves on a daily basis, whether it is the science of God or not, whether this process is actually drawing us closer to God, whether it is actually freeing us from the thoughts that have caused us to become connected to this material energy. And as we become more and more free, we experience the reality of what that freedom means. Now, being able to see a future with hope and anticipation that I'm going to see God after this life. I'm going to have communication face to face with Krishna. Krishna. That's pretty amazing. Think about it. And as rare as Krishna describes that to be, he is making it available to everyone who surrenders to him, that comes to the movement, that he has himself established as a means of an open door, continuous open door to everyone in the world. Come, taste the glorious taste of spiritual food. Experience the reality of love of God through association with one another, and have the most glorious experience life has to offer human beings. Sing, dance, chant, and be happy. That's our philosophy. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Any comments, any questions, any real thing? Haribol.
Yes, you
Haribol.